Wonderful. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. My name is Andreas Welch. I've spent the last 25 years in technology, 23 out of those at a company called SAP, just up the road in Newtown Square. Before I went independent about 2 years ago, now I'm an independent AI advisor, trainer, speaker, thought leader, influencer, adjunct professor, pretty much anything that's got to do with AI and that lets me dabble in many different areas and bring the learnings to others. I've authored 2 books. One is the AI Leadership Handbook that's all about how do I bring AI into my business if I'm looking to do that. Guess what? There's still enough businesses in that phase, even though marketing wants us to believe otherwise. And then if you have AI in your business, I already heard somebody mention Copilot earlier, right? What do you do with it, right? Oh yeah, you too, right? How do you get people to use it well without creating just low quality slop and say, hey, I'm done, I pressed the AI button. And so tonight's talk is about a core concept of my new book, The Human Agentic AI Edge. And that's all about the operating model. What happens when you bring AI agents into your business? How do you need to adapt your operating model? What are some of the things that you should have on your radar that are maybe not in mainstream media yet? And how do you bring your people on board? So, as we know, AI is advancing incredibly fast, right? If you miss reading the news for a day or two, it feels like you're already behind by a week or two. So, not only are things moving so quickly, and every week, every day, there's a new announcement. But when you look at how adoption of AI, of new technologies works in your own organization, it's probably not quite as fast, right? There's not a new product, a new feature, a new something that you roll out every day, every week. So the problem is that this gap between what is available and what are organizations actually able to adopt, that keeps widening. So it's a big opportunity cost for many organizations because they are not able to adopt it as quickly. I mean, I run a business of one. I find myself a lot of times in that same situation too, knowing that there's a lot happening, but I'm not able to play around with every new model and everything right when it comes out. Right? So there's some kind of lag. So, but with this AI happening or this innovation happening so quickly, what we've also seen over the last year is leaders saying, we want to be an AI first enterprise or an AI first startup. And that means everyone will use AI, or by the way, here's the door. If you want to leave, you can leave voluntarily, or we find a way to show you the door. Certainly one way of doing it. I've been a leader before. I wouldn't have chosen that path. Personally, I believe in more, in a leadership style that invites others to learn and to participate. But what these AI first mandates have actually triggered is a new form of shadow AI, right? We've seen shadow IT for a long time. Now it's shadow AI. My boss says, I need to use AI. Maybe we haven't rolled out anything yet, but guess what? I can use it on my phone. I have the $20 subscription to ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or what have you. So I use my company data, I put it there, and I'm super efficient and super effective. A nightmare for any IT leader, for any legal professional in the organization saying, oh my God, what's happening with our data, right? So there's a big push from the top. We need to be AI first. We as professionals, as leaders, as employees says, yeah, great. We're meeting that moment. AI is a great technology. I use it all the time, but I use it on my personal device. So it creates the shadow AI. And personally, I feel not the best kind of culture, right? You probably saw some of the announcements over the last couple of weeks. Block, the parent company of Square, Jack Dorsey, the CEO, said, we're getting rid of 40% of our workforce because we're revamping the company. We're reconfiguring what it means to work and to lead and to be an individual contributor. And 40% of you, thank you for your service. Bye-bye. Right? Come on. Others have seen a lot of pushback, like Shopify or like Duolingo over the years. But I'm curious. I'd like to make this a little more interactive, right? So there's not a lecture, there's not me just talking. If you can take out your phone and scan the QR code, this should be interactive. I'm curious, what assistants, what AI assistants do you use at work? I have a feeling the picture has been shifting in recent months. Other? Huh? Okay, so your mixture of experts, huh? Right there. All of them, okay, good. Okay. With a paid subscription?
Well, company subscription.
Good, okay. That's the right answer. Okay, so, yeah. Yeah, what happened to Perplexity?
I use Perplexity, but it's probably below Claude.
Okay, yeah, right? Yes, right? Yeah, okay, so Copilot, okay, I'm sorry. Cloud, okay, right up there. It's a very tight race, and then Gemini, ChatGPT, less so, and others. Okay, very good, good picture. I've asked audiences this kind of question over the last 9 months, roughly. It's interesting to see how Claude has been gaining and how ChatGPT has been losing share. Certainly, if you don't survey the same groups, how representative is it? But generally, interesting to see. Copilot, obviously, a lot more prevalent in business, Claude, and then ChatGPT. Okay, good. So I want to give you an example. So I give a lot of trainings to leaders in different industries. And a couple of weeks ago, I gave one to a large manufacturing client. They're international, they make furniture, they make commercial furniture for retail businesses and veneers and all sorts of things. And using AI agents and assistants, we said, hey, from 1 week to the next, between our modules, look for one task in your business function, in your role, and see how you can apply what you've learned, what agents are, how you can use them, how you can improve one task in your work. So we had this one plant manager who said, hey, I pulled Excel exports from our enterprise resource planning system, the orders, finance data, our manufacturing execution systems, our logistics data. And I took these Excel files and I gave it to my Copilot researcher agent. And I said, go figure out what you see in the data. See what is helpful for me as a plant manager, come up with some recommendations, and let me know what are some things that you see that I don't. And so he said, after spending a little bit of time with this, Copilot came back and said, hey, guess what? You have some customers that keep ordering multiple times from you, which is great, right? Repeat orders, we want good customers. Looks like you have a good relationship. But they order the same amount of the same product multiple times a week, which means you need to change the material in your machine between these different orders, right? Customer 1 orders something, customer 2 orders something different, then customer 1 orders something again. And you have a higher transportation cost because because you need to send 2 or 3 trucks to your customer to ship the product. So that's great finding. So in one of their next quarterly business reviews with the customer, they sat down and said, hey, we obviously have a very good relationship. You keep putting in these repeat orders. But we want to help you. And we want to work better together. Are there ways in which we can work together such that you consolidate orders? You place it once a week for a larger amount, and we give you a discount on shipping or some other way. So in fact, they've been able to have that conversation with their customer in the negotiation and been able to reduce their transportation costs, costs for changing material that they feed into the machine and things like that. The reason why I like this example so much is the plant manager does not have a background in data. He's not a data scientist. He's not a mathematician, statistician. But the technology makes it so easy that he was able to put that together. He said, I would otherwise have had an analyst sit there for a couple of days or a week or two trying to figure out what are the patterns. Now, half an hour later, I got a response, and it was actually something that I could work with. So to me, that's one of the big examples, but also the big power that I think we now have at our fingertips. Certainly, all of you working in data, you've known this all along. Right? But then when we look at how how do we use Copilot? How do we use Claude, especially Copilot, right? A lot of times that's really just for personal productivity. Summarize the meeting minutes, help me put this document into a slide deck, make it shorter, make it prettier, things like that. But right now we're talking a lot about this individual personal productivity. But for those of you that have been in the space for a long time, you know that's not necessarily where we started, right? With data, with analytics, with machine learning, we've usually worked on these outer layers where it's about team efficiency, operational efficiency. How can we improve our finance process, close the books faster, save costs there? How can we build data products or services that we can offer to our customers and that we can monetize? Right now, we're at this very inner circle here of productivity, but I think it's great in many ways because it democratizes not only access to the technology, but across the business, you have people that are becoming more fluent, that are becoming more aware of things that they can do, right? The things they can do with data. Again, the plant manager pulling data and Excel exports from different places to do this analysis. So my recommendation to business leaders when I give these trainings and talks is, it's great, start there, but don't leave out of sight that there's so much more aside from personal productivity. Your team's productivity, whether it's in finance and sales and other parts, or how you can actually differentiate your business. So, but whether it's Copilot, it's Claude, it's ChatGPT, it's Gemini, I think it's one thing that's becoming clearer to me is we solved one big problem in tech, right? Or with tech, and it was generating information. For the longest time, it's taken us a good amount of time to write that email, to draft that report, to summarize information. Now it's super easy, right? Press of a button, I'm done, I've used AI. Can you take a look at that report that I sent you? Let me know what you think. Should I make any changes to it? Does it sound familiar to anyone? Yeah? Does anyone get these kinds of emails from your team members or from your colleagues? Why? Because they're not your team members anymore.
Yeah, they have AI proofread the email now.
Okay. Yeah. So what's actually happening is, right, we're shifting that labor from me making sure that the information is correct and accurate to shifting it to you and saying, hey, can you take a look at this? Similarly, a couple of weeks ago, a senior manager in one of the trainings I gave said, hey, I keep getting all these emails from my team members. Action items, meeting summaries. Hey, can you take a look at this? Look, I attended this meeting. Hey, here's another action item. I said, why are they sending this to me? Right? We have a weekly one-on-one. That's where we usually discuss what's new or what happened in that week. I don't need to know it the minute you get out of the meeting. So we started talking about how can you change that? A lot of that has to do with setting expectations. First of all, I don't need to know this right this minute. If it's urgent, if it's critical, yes, absolutely. But the fact that you had a meeting about a meeting about a meeting, I don't need to know. Right? So it gets harder and harder to filter what actually makes sense. What do I need to pay attention to when everybody keeps flooding my inbox with information? So, question for you. Have you received low-quality AI-generated output recently in your inbox, for example? Right? Yes, right. Unfortunately, LinkedIn is nothing but. And I don't know if it's funny or if it's sad, but you have the AI draft the post and you have the other AI respond to it. So we're kind of in this bot-to-bot. But serious question, why are we in this kind of weird situation where it's AI talking to AI? Do we have less time? No, right? 2 years ago, 3 years ago, people were writing their own posts and they were commenting authentically. Why do you think we have this problem that many people use AI to create the posts and the other half uses AI to respond to them? Yes? Yep. Then discriminating what's the best use. But why use tech to write the post and use tech to respond? Yeah. Yes, right? More efficient with what you want to do, and because people are optimizing for reach and for engagement. I want my post to go viral. If thousands of people or millions of people see this, then maybe I get more followers, or I can sell my product. So by LinkedIn tweaking or saying reach is one of the big metrics and people chasing it, the question is, how can I lower the effort to get a bigger return? And if I'm not a good writer, sure, I use AI. But by now, I think many of us can tell what human writing looks like and what AI-generated writing looks like. Okay, yes. So feel sorry for you. 82% said I've received AI slop, and it was pretty bad. Some of you said maybe. I'm not sure how to spot it. And some said I haven't received it yet. Yeah. So just as a quick sidebar, spots or ways to spot it could be the M dashes, the long dashes. It could be the it's not this, semicolon, it's that sort of framing or phrasing, or things in three. Right? All good things come or all good things come in threes. With AI, that's for certain. Right? It's this, it's that, and the other. Those are just 3 examples. So, by the way, it's become so bad that people start mimicking the way that AI speaks and incorporate it back into their native language. Right? So it's not this, it's that. Pay attention, you might hear somebody say that for real. Okay, so now you might say, hey, this AI workflow, this low quality content, yes, something that occasionally happens, something that happens in certain industries. As far back as 2023, maybe you remember some of these cases. There were lawyers in New York City that were looking for precedence cases, and they used ChatGPT and said, hey, find me cases for a similar situation. I think they were representing an airline passenger that was suing the airline. So similar situation where this had happened. ChatGPT happily complied, came up with this whole list of other cases, precedence cases, and the lawyer submitted it to court. The court reviewed it and said, something's odd here. More than half of the citations do not even exist. So that was even before we really knew about hallucinations, or before we talked about that when we talked about generative AI. So the lawyers had to explain themselves, they had to pay a fine. They were still allowed to practice law. Now you might say, hey, 23, a long time ago, there was the infancy of generative AI, but right, a long time ago. But I looked for some other examples. The Guardian, there's something from last year, so it still keeps happening. Right? Okay, so then you might say, well, it's lawyers, right? By the way, I think that's bad enough when you rely on somebody in that profession that the information is incorrect. But be that as it may, let's say, okay, that's something that legal needs to deal with. Technology, we're ahead of the curve, right? We know that there are hallucinations. We know that all the pros and cons and challenges and risks. Then you look for other examples. Deloitte was in the news last fall in Australia and in Canada, I think with a week or two apart, or well, yeah, 2 or 3 weeks apart, because they've used AI to generate a report. Same thing happened. Erroneous citations, quotes by, I think, professors and lawyers that they've never, or statements they've never made. And so Deloitte had to explain themselves, and they had to refund a good part of the project. So anyways, work slop is happening, not just in legal, not just in tech, anywhere. So if you're seeing this in your microcosm, it's happening anywhere and everywhere. So, but before we get into the operating model, because that's the big piece here. The last 2 years of my career with SAP, I spent in marketing. I built and led SAP's global product marketing organization at a time when generative AI was just coming out. And at that time, we said, hey, we've seen so much hype during the machine learning hype cycle that we wanted to stay more grounded in what does the company actually offer, what can users do with it, and let's talk about the facts and not so much about the big blown out of proportion potential. That's one approach. Not everyone takes that, right? If you look at the marketing, for example, here by a company called Artisan last year, they said, hey, we have AI agents. Agents can do the work for you, business development reps. They can do it better, cheaper than humans, hire Ava, the business development rep. Has anyone ever done business development? And anyone ever done cold calling or trying to get business? Right? It's a tough job. Right? So hire our agents. They're like digital employees. I have a question for you, because that keeps coming up in a lot of conversations. Should we view AI agents that can take a task, that can take a goal that we give it, should we view them as digital employees? Yes? No? Maybe? Okay. By the way, you're not being graded. There are no right or wrong answers. The semester is almost over anyways. So can I ask, for those of you who said yes, why do you say we should view agents as digital employees, if you'd like to share? Yes?
It's a framework to give them rules and things to be measured by, and if they don't do their jobs, stop them and fire them.
The framework for them to do their jobs by. Framework, I think, is the key word in this. It's awesome, yes?
Actually, my response is a bit similar, but assign a responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it's not a legal responsibility, to figure out what happened, why.
Right. Yes, legal responsibility. Very good. We'll get to that in a minute. And Mark, how about you?
Mine is just the identity piece. Like you need to assign an identity to these agents so that you can track what activities they did. And just the gentleman back there said, like, benchmark it with certain metrics to see if it's actually succeeding or failing in its tasks.
Perfect. Good. How about Camp No? We should not view agents as digital employees. Why not? Or when not? Yes, Tim.
I mean, just rules and telling a thing to follow the rules. Like that to me is not an employee. That's just the system.
Yeah.
So I think that if I don't have to go to the federal government yet and file like I just unemployed 1,000 digital employees. So for me, it's just like a very straightforward tool versus
Yes.
working as a person.
Okay. Good. So the unemployment, that's a new one. I haven't heard that yet. So that's a good one. Yes. Very good. How about over there? Yes. One more.
Yeah, so I'm French, so I wouldn't like to have my digital employees to go on strike.
Yes. Right.
But I think we already pushing too much of a non-human distance to employee.
Yes.
So if now we're considering boats like employees as well, where is the social layer going to be?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Bringing my social history.
Yeah. No. I mean, I feel like a lot of the social contract is broken anyways. So fair point. How much more do you want to add?
I think the one thing
Yes.
is also, are you considering it for the point of view of paying seat licenses to somebody else? So that's, at least think those ways, and
Right.
pressure somebody to not charge you as many seat licenses.
Good point, right? So use it as leverage. Yeah. One more.
Also on the social aspect,
Yes.
like an agent can push back on the instructions that are given, and humans have to do that.
All excellent points.
To like do some fraud for me and said, I don't think so. I said, explain to me like.
Well.
Didn't you outsmart it? Because I had the same kind of thing with Claude, and then I said, no, but it's for research purposes. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Well, if it's for research, it's safe, right? It takes a long time anyways. Okay, so I've been thinking about this quite a bit and talked to a number of people, and to me, or for me, it comes down to something that I call the dual lens principle. So are agents digital employees? Yes, but like you said in the back, in terms of frameworks, right? We need guardrails, we need governance, we need job descriptions, we need performance metrics. Agents need to know what other agents can I work with, what other agents are even available in my environment. Standards, codes of conduct, and so on. That's where I see that agents can, or that we can borrow a lot from HR and from the principles of managing humans. but certainly they're just a piece of software, right? So like you said, who's accountable at the end of the day for the agents? It's not the agent themselves. It's whoever built them or operates them. So in that sense, I think at this time in the industry, it's helpful to think about agents as digital employees just as far as the construct of managing them goes. I want you to be a helpful customer service assistant. You have access to the knowledge base of these 2 or 3 products. By the way, that triggers questions around knowledge management. How do you keep the knowledge fresh and current? Who has access to it? Who decides that this is the holy grail of the knowledge that we have? Codes and policies. Think about finance agents. With financial professionals, we have certifications. We have accounting standards. We have IFRS and GAAP and whatnot. So if you're a finance agent, you need to know that these are the rules you need to abide by, and not the ones that you were trained on as a model 3 years ago, if things change. Rewards. Sure, we're incentivized by money. Probably a good bunch of us are. And if you do a good job, here's a raise. Maybe here's a bonus. For agents, that looks a little different. Probably like, I'll let you be active. But maybe going there for a second, where we as humans have this, or we know what existence means. And if you mess up really, really bad, your existence at this company, your job at this company is in trouble. So you're probably looking not to mess up. The agent doesn't care. If you shut it off, there's no ramifications. It's not losing money. It's not unable to pull the family through. It's not going to jail and nothing. So anyways, rewards in that sense, how do you design reward functions that the agent works works towards achieving these goals? So setting the right incentives, not just reach and engagement like LinkedIn, where you end up with agents that write the content and agents that reply, but thinking about what are the rewards and how do we review that the agent performs to our specifications. Collaboration and organization, what other agents are available, what can they do. I've been using a platform called N8N for quite some time. Now, obviously, everybody is jumping to Cloud Code. I'm moving there too. But what I like about N8N as a workflow tool is if you use agents there, you can tell it these are the different sub-agents that are available. This is what they do. This is the scope they have. In a similar way, we'll need to see more of that as we bring agents to the enterprise too. So what agents are there? What can they do? Almost like an address book or like an org chart of sorts. I don't think we're there quite yet, but the likes of Microsoft and Salesforce and so on, they're bringing this orchestration and governance layer in more and more. So to me, those are the key parts of the human agentic AI edge operating model. Thinking about agents as employees so far as these dimensions go, but also realizing that they're just a piece of software. Okay, so if you read the news, if you're in the job market, I think several of you raised their hand, it's not as easy, it's not as simple as it used to be, and it probably never was really simple. But from my perception, ever since Dario Amodei said over the next 3 years, 5 years, the unemployment is going to rise and skyrocket. We no longer need entry-level roles. There have been enough CEOs that either have taken it as gospel or are taking it as an excuse, like we've seen in recent weeks, more and more with layoffs. I think it was Oracle and others saying, hey, we need to invest more in AI. Meta, I think, was another example. So we need to trim our workforce, and we don't need as many entry-level professionals because AI can do the work. So to me, that means the bottom is falling out. But where we had a pyramid before, now we're almost looking at a diamond where the bottom is missing, or even narrower shapes. But it's really not the time to sit still and say, right, okay, this will pass, or I don't think AI will affect me. I think we all know examples where it helps, and we know examples where we maybe have a colleague that there's a little more resistance. Is I'm not going to change. I'm not going to change. Eventually, they will have to change, and depending on the culture, they might need to change elsewhere. But the big part is, there's so much happening, right? With the technology, there's so many tools coming out, so many opportunities. If you have a tech background, I'm sure many of you are excited too, learning about the technology and learning about the tools. What can you do with it? Right? It's the engineer in many of us. But if AI, if agents can do more of the work that humans are doing, if they can do it faster and cheaper, and maybe as good as we can on certain tasks, how do you define your value at work? What makes you unique? What makes humans unique at work? It's a little philosophical, I know. What, 20 characters? Okay, I need to change that to like free text. Well, say it in one word. Make it count. Yes.
Judgment.
Judgment. That's a good one. Yes. Right. What I worry, quite frankly, is if we are cutting out the bottom, if the triangle becomes a diamond, how are people learning, and what are the opportunities that people get to learn to become more proficient in their domain, to be able to develop judgment? Right? If we say, hey, with AI you can perform at an expert level on day one, but we also know it takes 10,000 hours to become really proficient, to become an expert at something. How do we do that? Has anyone submitted their response yet?
I did.
Okay, good. Let me see. No, not this. Not that. Huh. Okay. Well, I can't claim that this one was written by AI. But if any of you would like to share, I'd love to hear from you. What do you think? What's the value that we bring as humans to our work? Yes.
So I put judgment and then priority setting.
Yes.
Because we can make, with AI, you can generate an infinite number of possibilities.
Yes.
And like a 1,000-page document on what to do. But someone needs to figure out what's the most important thing.
Right. Yeah.
A few things you want your team to focus on out of that.
Yeah. Great point. So priorities and filtering, right? Like we said. Yeah. Good.
This is going to sound odd, but I would say friction, slowing things down a bit, not immediate
Yes.
execution.
Friction, yes. I'm reminded of colleagues that might oppose your opinion or have a different opinion, have a different viewpoint. If all of a sudden all your digital colleagues that you talk to are around the median, where's that friction? Where are the different viewpoints? Yes? Right. Innovation, yes. AI is good at mimicking something or summarizing something, but then no original ideas, at least not as of yet. Yes. Yeah. Revenue generating. Yeah. A successful salesperson once told me, sales is people doing business with people. Right? So, yes, we're all in the people business at some point. Yeah. One more. Yeah. Yeah. Great. Yes. So definitely. So many points. So I thought about this a little more deeply in the fall last year, and I thought, what are the things that make us unique, right? As children, we're praised for the work that we do, from little things like helping wash the dishes, to help wash your dad's car, to some chores. Right? It's effort. There's a lot of effort. and that's often praised or regarded by our parents. Then at some point we go to school, we maybe go to university, we go to start our first job, and we've accumulated so much knowledge, and we continue to accumulate knowledge and experience to drive the outcomes. But nowadays, it seems like AI has access to an infinite amount of knowledge and information, at least. Right? And then the last one, accomplishment. Hey, you did a great job. You got an A. You passed this exam. We completed this project on time and under budget or something. So looking at rewards, whether it's the praise or it's the financial rewards, well, AI agents seem to make all of that pretty effortless. Right? Work, I need 1 agent, I need 10 agents. As long as I can afford the tokens and I have the infrastructure, no problem, right? Super cheap. So, right, many people might be or are intimidated by, well, if AI can do this faster than I can, what's my value? What are the outcomes? If AI can achieve outcomes that are at least as good as what I can do with 10, 15, 20 years of experience, and AI can do that more or less out of the box, then what's my value? Why do I need to go to college? What do I need to know? I think still a lot to be able to apply that judgment. And the last one, the accomplishment. So if you're in a leadership role, whether it's a project leadership role or a people leadership role, I think we need to change our mindset around what is the value that we bring as individuals to work. Yes? 5 minutes, that's good, perfect. So we need to shift more towards purpose. We need to look at how can we achieve high quality, and we need to think about what is the impact that we actually make at the end of the day. So to look at the other side of that dual lens, right? That comes down to how do we know how much we should give and delegate to AI? Do we need to be deeply involved in the loop? Do we just monitor it and once a week, once a month, check in and see, look at the reports, did it do what it was supposed to? And a lot of that depends on how high is the risk of something going off the rails. Are they legal, financial, reputational risks that might occur if the agent does something that it's not supposed to? So staying in the loop, at least for the foreseeable future, might not be such a bad idea. Has anyone seen this piece from about 2 months ago? This is all about OpenClaw, right? The super autonomous agentic framework and harness. And what was in the news was one of Meta's AI researchers said, hey, I built this OpenClaw. I think it was on a Mac Mini, and it worked autonomously. And I said, hey, can you help me clean up my inbox? I said, yep, I will clean it, right? Delete. So everything in the inbox older than February 15th that isn't already in my keep list. Bye-bye, delete. So apparently she must have run to the device and actually pulled the power plug because that was the only way to shut it off. So, right, what happens if you're no longer in the loop? Something to think about. So for the last few minutes, I'm sure you see this in your work, you see this in your business, you probably see this in part also with your friends. People are asking, well, how should I use AI? How do I even know what's available in business? What am I allowed to do with it? Where do I find it? What kind of data can I put in there? What version do we have access to? Is it Copilot Web? Is it Copilot Work? Do I have the Copilot Studio? Can I use agents or build agents? So there's a lot of confusion. And a lot of times it really just starts with awareness. What is available? If you're in a position where you can make this information available to your teams, absolutely think about what are the tools that are available that are approved that we should use, what data can go in there. Aligning it with your business in team goals and objectives, assessing, does the output actually make sense that we get back? Also talk to your peers, make it a normal practice that maybe once a week in your team meeting you say, hey, who's built a new agent, who's used AI for a novel task, and what did you find? It doesn't always have to be the good things, the things that worked well, but creating community learning around this. And the last one, depending on what you use AI for, whether it's in your profession or it's in your interaction one-on-one, it might be, or you might be well advised to still say, hey, I used AI for this part, but I did so-and-so, because maybe you see this too, there's a good amount of stigma going around that, hey, things are AI generated, or the email that you sent me looked like it was AI generated. So anyways, there's a lot more about that in the book. So, so to close it off, if you're looking for ways to put this in action, 3 steps for you. One is amongst your team, whether it's a project team, whether you have people responsibility, people leadership responsibility, set expectations for AI use. First of all, I want you to use AI. I empower you, I encourage you to use AI, but here are some expectations. You're not off the hook doing great work. You never were, by the way. Just because AI is an easy button doesn't absolve you from doing great work. If you or your team members are wondering, well, what can I use it for? Look at a recurring task, something that you do regularly. It doesn't have to be the big data analysis like the plant manager did in the manufacturing company, but it could be summarizing your project status or little things. But most of all, experiment hands-on. The more you work with the technology hands-on, as many of you might have already seen, the better you get an understanding for how does this work, where does it work well, where does it fail, what do I need to do, what do I need to know. I think that's the biggest part, the biggest learning that we can all do at this moment in time. So, like I said, I brought the books. If you'd like to get a signed copy, please see me. And otherwise, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate your questions and your engagement. All right? Good. And with that, back to Mark.
Yeah. If there are there any questions?
Oh, I'll ask a question.
Yeah.
Yes.
So going back to your
Yes.
transportation example.
Yes.
And the actual solution, did you, and we're a data group here.
Yes.
So thinking about data, and did you just connect all the databases up to Copilot? How confident are you? Did you use a public cloud-based model
Yes.
version of Copilot?
So